Good morning. Hope you're doing good today. So I want to start with, I have several points to make today. I have actually had a flood of inspiration come in this morning. And so I've actually got notes. I normally don't have notes, but I'm going to work from these. So what came over me this morning was the distinctions between some of the different YouTube channels on narcissism. And I'm not going to go through all of them because there's a lot of channels, but I'm going to share 3 that have really resonated with me more so than others, okay? The first one would be Sam Vaknin's channel. And what I pull from his as a distinction from all of the others is that he gives us a lot of the deep psychology as to the reasons why manipulators, narcissistic individuals do what they do. So in a way, it's kind of like you're looking for answers. You know, you're in a lot of pain. You've just exited what you feel like is a very toxic relationship or group or family, whatever it is, organization, or maybe you're in it, whatever it is, but you're looking for answers. If you're willing to sit with the depth of information that Sam lays out for you, it kind of adds to your healing in a sense that you feel like you finally have some answers. It doesn't make anything better. It's just that's one piece of the puzzle on your journey of healing and trying to move forward, per my experience, okay, in my opinion. But I would say that that's the distinction with his channel, is that he offers you the psychology behind the reasons why these individuals do what they do. And he also positions a lot of the topics he discusses from the viewpoint of the victim, okay, and the psychology there as well. And so that has been very, very helpful for me. And so I'm very grateful that he is so dedicated to what he does. But stuff like, when you're in a lot of pain and you're very confused and you're in this mindset of just a foggy type situation, you can't make heads or tails of a situation and you don't know what's going on. Such as feeling like you have lost your very sense of self. A lot of people, if you try to go to the average person and seek their input on this kind of stuff, they're going to look at you like, you have 3 heads or something. It's like you're an alien, and you're not going to get, not only are you not going to get any kind of validation or answers, you're probably going to be worse off, than you were before you shared some of your experiences with the average person, because not everybody is aware of these kinds of things, okay? And you can look at them through the spiritual lens or just simply through a psychological lens, and that's something I really appreciate with Sam too. He leaves the spirituality piece out of it completely. He's just very much coming at this from an academic background, and I appreciate that. I do. Even though I feel like I'm very deeply spiritual, I can still gain a lot of benefit from people who have different viewpoints. Because a lot of times when you are in a particular paradigm on any given topic in your life, okay, it sort of boxes you in. And when you go to other people that share that same paradigm or belief system or whatever it is with you, they're all going to be pulling their own answers for you, their own support, whatever it is they're feeding back to you. They're all pulling from the same box, okay? And so to think outside of the box, you have to go outside of the box sometimes and seek input from people who are not within that same social system or even culture or belief system or whatever it is. And that can expand you. A lot of times that's what you need to heal and move beyond. So I appreciate that he just keeps it very academic. And but just some examples is feeling like you lose yourself, okay? And so he goes into the just extreme depths of the psychology around that from both sides, okay? The perpetrator and the victim. Another thing that's really interesting, and this is just off the top of my head this morning, is he explains how narcissistic individuals are so self-focused that even when it comes to intimacy, they're still self-focused. And when you're a part of that equation, you can feel that they are not actually, even though they're being physically, literally intimate with you, it can feel on the other end like you're an object. And it's very helpful for Sam to go into the psychology of that, because it's validating, and that's just one example of many, many, many different topics within what a person experiences when they are with someone with narcissistic personality disorder, or, someone who maybe isn't diagnosed, but they certainly have the traits. So I just very much encourage his channel. But that's the distinction that I pull from the information he gives. It's just that he helps you understand the why, the psychology behind it. The other channel is Narc Daily. And Andrew, I like how he basically details the experience, what it's like being with a person or people who are narcissistic. And he does so just in a day-to-day, like your daily life kind of moment-to-moment experiences with these people. And a lot of times you're going to find that it's like he lived almost exactly what you lived through. The experiences are extremely similar. And so it's very, very validating. Validation, to me, is the distinction in his channel as he details out what it's like. And that's important, because when a person is going through a very highly manipulative marriage or family system or work environment, friend group, when you truly believe they're friends at that point, or whatever it is, things somehow, as a part of the manipulation, I believe, get normalized. And things that someone outside of the system, if they could be a fly on the wall, is an expression, right? Or have a bird's eye view up here in the sky, and they can look down and see the whole situation, which you can't because you're in it, which is that whole expression of you can't see the forest for the trees. That's where you are if you're within that controlling manipulative system, okay? You can't see the forest for the trees, but you have, somebody up here. I'm thinking about, I saw some birds circling in the sky yesterday. It's kind of like that, okay? They can see the whole situation. They can see the red flags, but when a person's in it, you can't, okay? And so validation of your actual experiences is critical, in my opinion, as a part of waking up and saying, okay, this person says that X, Y, and Z is not, I don't want to say normal, because what is normal? but it's not the way it should be, okay? It's not healthy. It's not balanced, or whatever it is. And then it just allows you to look at things a little differently, from a different viewpoint, and you start to realize, wait a second, it's not manipulating you from the outside to misperceive the family you're in or the group you're in and suddenly start judging everyone. It's not like that, because what validation can do for you, it's kind of like knocking at this door of your psyche, and it kind of cracks open your awareness just a little bit, or sort of like planting seeds. And then from that point, logic is able to kick in, and it's like you break this spell, or what Andrew calls the narcissistic fog, and everything becomes clear. And it's not all at once, by the way. And he even talks about it as peeling back the layers of the onion, and that's exactly how it is. There's stages of awakening, and which is, I think God designed it that way personally, because I think it would be too shocking to our psyche if it was more like flipping a switch and we were made aware of everything all at once. I think that could break your mind not only break your heart, but break your mind. So I think this is part of the grand design, the greater design, divine design, however you want to say it. But it just sort of is kind of like ringing a bell or like a wake-up alarm, just so that you're able, it reflects to you from the outside world, okay, the situation in a new way, so that you can suddenly understand, I have been conditioned to overlook certain things, to minimize certain things, to dismiss these doubts I have in my mind and all this stuff, okay? So it's all psychological manipulation or abuse, okay? And that's why it's so subtle, because these people who do that can essentially be a completely different person to the rest of the world, which is another reason why you can literally feel trapped, because if you try to go to somebody else that knows this other person, you both know this manipulator, they're not going to believe anything you say, because their first-hand experience with them is very different from yours. And they're going to think you're just making stuff up, and so it's tough. So this is extremely important. Validation is very, very important, and holding up a mirror to your situation, just to help you see it in a different light. And it's kind of like then you're able to see the forest, okay? So that's the distinction that I get from Andrew's channel, Narc Daily, and he's funny too. I think he's very funny, and he talks about because it's, why? Because it's ridiculous. The stuff that we experience is almost like would be movie worthy, And an example, I wrote a couple down here. He talks about how they walk 30 feet in front of you in the store. It's like, and it's, why? He says because, they want to appear single. And that may resonate with you. So there's a lot on his channel that if you've been through this kind of stuff will probably resonate with you. Maybe not everything, but it's strange how much that a lot of people experience that you feel like is unique until you hear other people talk about it, and then you're like, oh, it's not unique. So yeah. He talks about how they're always on the go, they're rarely home, they're just very busy, they're but if they are home, you can bet that they're going to be on one of their 3 smartphones. So he just talks about how they operate and how it appears to you, and I think that's super important. So validation. The other channel would be Jesse from Narcissist Chronicles, and Jesse's channel was when I first found it, very hard for me to understand in some ways, because he's just very down to earth and makes a lot of jokes. He's very relatable and all this, but the kinds of stuff he talks about, for me at least, and I wonder if it's like this for a lot of people, just it flew over my head. It's like it should make sense, but it doesn't make sense. And then I finally realized it's because, and this is my opinion obviously, but the distinction of his channel is that he teaches the actual, it's almost like a game that these people play. He teaches you the plays within this game of manipulation. And when your mind is not, if you don't understand it first, I think that's actually a good thing, because your mind's not wired that way. If you've ever questioned yourself, like, is there something wrong with me? Am I actually the bad person? Am I the narcissist or whatever? If none of this stuff is even clicking with you, then you can rest assured that your mind is not even wired that way. So it takes a while. It did for me. It took a while for me to grasp, like, what did that even mean? And that's very much needed. So you can't understand a game. I'm thinking about just baseball, football, soccer, whatever. If you're new to that and you're, wanting to go and watch and understand the game, you're not going to understand it unless you understand the plays and what they mean. And that's what he offers. And all these channels offer more than what I'm saying. I'm just saying, as far as my perception and what has been helpful for me, my opinion, the distinction, the area of distinction that resonates the most with me and stands out the most to me are these things. So on Jesse's channel, it would be the manipulation tactics. Okay, the tactical plays within this game. And that's important. And what I have found is that he sort of, even if you don't quite get it all and it doesn't quite click in the moment, he's sort of planting these seeds, okay, giving you these breadcrumbs of things to look out for within these plays, so that they're tucked away in your psyche somewhere, and then when you actually experience it again, and it can even be in hindsight if you're thinking back, you're thinking back over, your past experiences too. It's sort of like reliving them in that way, okay? So it works that way too. Or in real time, in your real life, you can just be, if you're still, around these people or whatever, this person, you can catch this stuff in real time. And this is just kind of my thoughts, okay? The whole thing in the Bible where it says, we're supposed to test the spirits and stuff. So if you're heavily asleep or naive and you're not even aware that there's a game being played, then you're not going to be prompted to test the spirits because you've already given these people trust, okay? And that includes the spirits that are attached to them and within them and all that stuff. So I think it's a wonderful thing because, we need to stay vigilant. And anything that can prompt us to just simply pause and question things, okay? That can be what's needed to shatter the whole illusion. Because I'm going back to Sam again. He talks about this fantasy world that these manipulators create, and they rope you into it, and you don't even realize it. You think it's the real world. And that can look a lot of different ways. But back to Jesse's channel, it's just super, super important. And I think that just enables you to wake up. It breaks the spell. There are spell casters, and then there are people who can help break the spell. And I would say that's a large part of his channel, and it's very, very important. So I just wanted to share that with you all. And I did join a long time ago for a brief period. There was a community of people that met, I think back then. Pardon me, excuse me. I don't know how to turn this thing off. Hope that wasn't too loud on you. There was a community of people who met and kind of discussed, what they have been going through, which is great because support's important. And again, it's real hard to find if you're trying to, and it takes strength, okay? You're trying to be strong enough to admit, reality to yourself and break the illusion of the fantasy and all that. Support is very helpful. And so Kevin from the Royal We, his channel, he offered a community, and I think he was live on video, but everybody else could chat with one another and with him and talk, and he would answer questions and facilitate the conversation. And that was nice to feel like you had a community you can kind of share your experiences with and stuff. And then I think once a week, if I'm not mistaken, they would meet and he would offer everyone, meet online, everyone could turn their camera on, and it was kind of like a, what do you call that? Not a FaceTime, but like a Zoom type meeting situation. I don't know if he still offers that or not, by the way, but that was very helpful, and I really appreciated that. And there were others, early in my journey of waking up that are not on YouTube. And they were really for me in my own walk before I even found these people that I talked about today. But these other people, I absolutely know that God orchestrated us finding one another, because the kind of work that I went through with them was very, very critical. And it was a lot of emotional processing. And I think that I have this old t-shirt that says emotions distort reality. I think a lot of times you have to tend to those first. Even if you can't really understand your emotions, you still have to feel them and process them and all that. And to get to a place of mental stability where you can think logically, to do the other work that these other channels, help facilitate. Does that make sense? So I had people that helped me think a little bit differently, and then I had people that helped me do a lot of emotional processing, and they were absolute angels. And so I just wanted to share that. And I think that it's God provides. He provides. He doesn't always provide exactly what we think we want and or what we need in our timing, but he does provide. So on that note, I like to say or think, because I was thinking about, what about my channel? What do I offer? I would say, I'd be curious of your opinion, obviously, but this hasn't been a conscious effort on my behalf, but I think that there's a Bible verse, and I'll drop it down in the description. I meant to look it up before I started this video and I forgot, but it talks about bearing with one another in our suffering. And I think that some people may look at channels like mine and view them as negative, okay? But here's the thing. I've shared this before. I mean, I've known several people, children that I taught, they were, grew up, and because I taught many years ago, and they took themselves out of this place, and other people I've known that took themselves out and stuff, and that's extremely tragic and sad to me. And I feel like a lot of times people like that don't feel like they have any support at all. And I think a lot of times our pain has to be witnessed. And it's a little bit like, the emotional processing and things, but that I talked about that someone else helped me with, but not exactly the same. I think that even though I don't know you all personally, and I can't, some of you I do, but a lot of you I don't, I can't sit physically in front of you and hear your story. Even though I can't do that, I can share the impact on my soul, my mind and heart and spirit, the impact of things. I can share that from my heart with you all. And that's what I've always tried to do. And in that sense, I hope that you feel seen. I hope that your pain feels validated and acknowledged. Your pain. Just like these other people, like Andrew, can validate your experiences, and that's critical too. But I think our pain, our suffering, it's when it's seen and understood and validated by another, I think that's critical in helping us heal too. And that's what I hope to offer you. I know that nobody wants to sit in that place forever, but I think it's important to honor our feelings and feel the feelings and be validated that the pain is real and it's deep, until it feels lighter, and so that's kind of the distinction, maybe, I don't know, from my position, my channel, but I'd like to hear your opinion on that. So, and another thing, I'm going totally backwards on my notes here, but, I think sometimes we can, let me get some water here. We can sort of get into this mindset that God is sort of like a genie. We may not use that label, that term, but unfortunately, I think sometimes we start to view him that way and start to pray to him in that way, that he's just going to make everything better, okay? But if you think about things, and life will get better, by the way. I want to encourage you. So if you're in the thick of it and it's hard right now, I'm telling you, it'll get better. You have to stick with it, okay? Persevere. I hope that you do. But in terms of just having, this abundant, these abundant riches and stuff just poured in your lap. I mean, God's not a genie, and I think sometimes we start taking things for granted, and we don't realize how good we have it, and we start to come at God from that position of just wanting more and more and more and more and more. And if you think about it, in the Bible, the devil approached Jesus and offered him, all these riches and kingdoms of the world, if he would bow down and worship him. And of course, he rejected the devil and resisted the devil. We're told to resist the devil. So what does the devil do? I think sometimes I can catch myself associating the devil, okay? And this is also my part is coming from a spiritual perspective. I can't not do that. It's just part of who I am. But I can find myself associating the devil with bringing things like depression, okay, and sadness and all this stuff. And I'm not saying that's not true. But the Bible tells us to bear with one another in suffering. It talks about, the state of man's heart, and that, we can't worship the world or be a friend to the world and also be a friend to God. It's like you have to pick one or the other. So there's a pretty clear distinction there. And so, and it says the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and all this stuff. And then on the other hand, the devil is actually associated in the Bible, if you go to the source, okay, instead of our own beliefs. I have to check myself sometimes. I'd love to hear your opinion on this, but in the Bible, it talks about the devil being associated with being more like a genie and giving you more like what you want, okay? So, something to think about. Nobody wants to, pain and hardship and bad feelings and negative vibes and all that, nobody wants to deal with that. But I think that it's just part of it. It's just part of this experience and part of loving one another. That is part of love, in my opinion. And when a person is unwilling to meet another person there in their suffering, and I'm not talking about having a pity party. That's a little different, okay? And a lot of people, by the way, I'm sure you know this, exploit bad situations and play a victim on purpose as another game, a part of like a manipulation tactic, okay? And so that's all different. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's kind of like, if you don't acknowledge it, then you're never going to really get beyond it. But you can certainly pile on top of and cover up, hard things that we need to admit to ourselves and that we need to feel and face reality on. Really hard things. The only way to truly move beyond that is to acknowledge that. It's the same way with acknowledging our own faults so that we can accept the gift of Christ on the cross, and that, forgiveness is through the Christian lens. You can't do that until you truly acknowledge your own faults and stuff. So it's kind of like that. You can't really move beyond the pain until it's witnessed and acknowledged and honored and felt, okay, genuinely. And a lot of times we just live almost in a state of self-medication, with shopping, with positivity, with just wanting to be within this delusion, this fantasy world that these manipulators create. They keep you comfortable, for a reason. And a lot of people just want to stay comfortable. That's the truth of it. And maybe for some people it's okay, but for others they may actually be in danger. Okay? So this is important. And I'm thinking of that song. Who is it? I'll drop it in the description. I think her name's Annie. She's a singer. This is from the 80s. It's like, some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be used by you. So it's kind of like that. Some of them want to abuse you. Some of them want to be abused. There are people who, if you make them comfortable enough, I believe, even if they are given the insight that they're actually within the world, the false reality of that has been created by a manipulator in their life, a controlling person in their life, they don't want to leave it. Even if they're made aware of it, they don't want to leave it. And that's a choice that people have to make. And if you were the one, unfortunately, that can see your loved one or your friend is choosing to stay in that situation, that's hard, but it's their life. It's their life. You just have to hope that they're actually not in danger, you know. Manipulators, a lot of manipulators do this simply for financial gain, just to kind of leech off of the other person who's really a workhorse. And they're just sitting back, you know, not really doing very much in life, working really hard. They're able to enjoy the fruits of the other person's labor and all that. It's still a bad situation. But there's other people, other manipulators who seek to go even further, okay? And so it can be a very dangerous situation. So this is important stuff. Which brings me to my first note that I wrote, which seems completely irrelevant in light of all this other stuff, but I guess I'll share it with you because I wrote it down. So my house is messy. I'll just admit it. It's messy. And it wasn't always this way. And, you know, typically, I'll just go back even before I got married. You know, in my 20s, my apartment was certainly not like this. I kept it very, very clean and neat. I actually used to wash my Jeep, the first Jeep I had. I was so proud of it. I washed it at least once a week, if not twice a week. I would use Q-tips and detail it. I mean, I was that specific. And then as I got married and everything, and, you know, we were working and became very, very busy. You know, you kind of let a few things go, but for the most part, everything was still kept up. But the situation I'm in now, I've had just one thing after another happen with my pets, things like that. And of course, when you have children and stuff, that adds to it. But part of it too is that sometimes I make the choice in prioritizing other things over cleaning. But, you know, it's okay. But this morning, here's what I want to share with you all. I was looking around the house and I was thinking, man, it's a mess, okay? But I imagined in my mind, you know, 20 years down the road, same house, and I'm here, and I just imagine it totally perfect, spick and span. It seems sad to me, absolutely sad, because a lot of times, yeah, clutter, things like that, is a sign of life. You know, a lot of life being lived all around you. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. It's not sterile, you know. So I just mentioned that to share with you all that, you know, getting different viewpoints and different perspectives on your situation is just, it's so wonderful. It expands you in such a wonderful way. And so that's another thing. A lot of the other channels I like to watch are very interesting topics, you know, outside of the topic of manipulation and narcissism and all that. But channels on travel and different places all around the world, channels on history and science, and there's just so much that we can delve into, and, you know, so many different ways we can find joy in this life. And I just wanted to mention that. So if you feel kind of down today, or you feel stuck, or, you know, just remember that it will pass, and there's so much that you can do, that you can find joy in, that it's really interesting out there if you just look for it. And you may be feeling unseen and unheard, but hopefully some of the things I've shared with you all today will be helpful to you, and you can feel validated and get just little keys, you know, little breadcrumbs of little puzzle pieces of what you might need to kind of shift your perspective, to either break you out of a spell or to help you see that sometimes things get flipped upside down, you know, and maybe the blessings sometimes are right in front of you, and you just have to have the eyes to see them. So I hope that this has been interesting, and I hope that you found value in it. I hope it got the wheels turning, and I thank you so much for coming along to hear the message. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you again very soon.